There you go, bro.
Good to go.
All right. Just waiting on the stream things to catch up over here. Take a little longer than usual. Hmm. All right. I'll give it a 5 second countdown. Here we go. In five, four, three, two, and one. What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us here on the Welcome Home Podcast. I'm your host, Famously Garnet, and I'm joined by my co-host Q.
What it do, y'all? What it do?
And in today's episode, we bring back Rob Brown for another go around as we
Yes,
break down
sir.
the college football season. The official voice of the upstate up there, off the fan upstate, the guy, the myth, the legend, the guy that has probably the best shoes I've ever seen at a media event. I'm just gonna be real with you. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna be real with you. Q, you should have seen the shoes, bro.
I
He
believe
was
it,
he was
bro.
he
Rob,
matched it
Rob,
up.
Rob, that guy.
It was his wedding out. It was his wedding, man. Like he had it, bro. Like look, he's bringing him out. He's bringing him
Look,
out.
I got him right here, boys. Listen. When you
Bring
stay
'em out,
ready,
bring 'em
you don't
out.
have to get ready. When you
That's
stay
facts.
ready, you don't have to get ready.
Look
All right.
at
That
him.
thing's
Got
fire,
a
bro.
custom match to the wedding suit. Went with a gold trim on the AF1 highs. When you get ready, boys, you don't have to. You stay ready. You don't have to get ready.
I respect it. I
Those are
respect that,
facts.
Rob. You
Those are
know I'm a
facts.
shoe guy, man. So I respect it, Rob. That's how you got to go, bro. That's how you got to go.
What's up,
Those are
fellas?
facts.
How the hell is everybody?
You know it, bro. Hey, man, I've been waiting on this episode for a minute, man, Rob, because I felt good because of how last year went. You know, I was a real believer last year. I knew we had made some improvements. And just like you said, Rob, you said, hey, man, Q, I hear you, but I got to see it after what happened the year before. Why be daggone, Rob? They showed you, didn't they?
They did. They did. Look, I think the narrative of the year has got to be expectations are raised, right? And I'm not talking about raised in terms of what we think is going to happen. I think raised in terms of what South Carolina fans ought to expect to happen. And I've said 1,000 times on the show, and I'll say it 1,000 times more. The South Carolina Gamecocks have the most difficult back 7 games of anybody in college football this year. I think it demands, if you want a shot at the playoffs, it demands a 5-0 start this year. But more importantly than that, I think you guys got to go out and wax that ass against Virginia Tech on Sunday, because it's not just starting 5-0, fellas. It's starting 5-0. And even though they don't put a vote out until November, making sure the people on that committee are looking at Columbia, South Carolina and going, oh, the boys are legit. I'm not just saying win against Virginia Tech. You squeak out of there with a 1, 2, 3-point win. You're just a team that's got a Heisman potential guy at quarterback, nothing else. You go out there and you go drum by 2, 3 touchdowns. Now some folks that are going to be putting ballots into a computer on November 4th, now they're going to look and go, we got to pay attention to these fellas. Get all of the bonus credit you can get now so that you can drop 2 or 3 of those last 7. And since you have such a tough resume, still be a team they're paying attention to.
I agree with that, Rob. I think the biggest thing, and I said, if you want people to take your expectations seriously and take you as a program seriously, you have no choice but to start 5-0 this year. You have no choice. Now, after the 5-0 part, this is where things get interesting, in my opinion. When I look at that schedule, Rob, after that, you have LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M, Coastal Carolina, and Clemson. That is the order of your back half. If you want people to really seriously say this team's a playoff team, you have to go 2-1 between LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma. You have to. And you're going to have to win the Ole Miss game on the road or the A&M game on the road. Now, Clemson also plays a factor in this situation. You have to stop the streak of them beating you at your home. in order for you to also be taken serious. So there's a 3-phaser, in my opinion, in that situation. 3-phaser. 5-0, 2-1 in that 4-phaser. 5-0, 2-1 in that stretch. Have to win at Ole Miss or A&M. You have to beat Clemson. Those things have to happen. And if you're able to accomplish those things, I personally feel very strongly about where we are come the Coastal Carolina game before the Clemson game. If 3 of those phases are done. Do we have the talent to do it? Yes. Rob, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. We have absolutely the talent to do it. Health plays a role in this situation. Experience plays a role in this situation. And coaching plays a role in this situation. I feel better because of Faison. I do.
Oh,
I'm gonna be honest with you. With Faison in the fold right now, with Faison able to play, everything's behind it. I am feeling a lot better about where we are.
I did cue a film study on Faison the other day on my social media at the Rob Brown Show because shameless self-promotion never stops. I did a film study on this cat. You can find it on my YouTube, on my Instagram, on my TikTok, on my Twitter, because I'm a social media whore. What do you want? I like this cat a lot. There is one concern that I have, which is you found out that he was eligible to play Sunday 6 days before Sunday. And while I understand that he has been eligible to practice for a few weeks now, I think you have to ask the question, if you're Shane Beamer and you're optimistic he's going to get the sign off in the exemption to be able to play. Cool. Let's be optimistic. I like that. I'm an optimist. But you don't know for sure. How many first team reps are you giving that guy in practice? How many times are you going to take a first team rep away from Attaway or somebody else and put it into the hands of a guy that you are not 100% sure is going to be there on that Sunday? So I agree with you. The offense is better. I did the film study. There's very little not to like about this guy. I was hunting for criticisms, and I was able to come up with basically 3. The first one is, respectfully, and I hate this because it's cliche as hell, but it's true, he hasn't done it against an SEC caliber defensive line. All right, that's just a fact. You can do it at Utah State and go out there and put up a $190 and 2 tutties on Hawaii. But what happened to Ashton Jeanty last year when he went up against a Penn State Big Ten defensive line? He had to stack up yards in the fourth quarter to get to a century mark, which was like his first quarter total when he was playing in the Mountain West. So that is a realistic thing you have to break down. The second thing that I pointed out in that film study was that I think that Faison hits holes inside of the offensive line with such aggression that even though he is phenomenal at changing direction in the open field to utilize defensive backs, second and third level guys, body leverage, angle momentum against them, he's going to get you facing that sideline. And right when you get there, that shift cut to go back to the other sideline and get you running past him is remarkable. The only other comment I had, and this is nitpicky, is when he does get into space, he overruns his blockers, right? He gets a one-on-one block out there, wide receiver on a cornerback, and he will often just run by the wide receiver before he sets the block, and he ends up at a spot. And he can win one-on-ones, but point is, I was looking for critiques on Faison, and I was kind of digging to find them. So even knowing how talented this kid can be, let's just assume for the sake of the conversation, he can do it against SEC defenses. Great. My question mark is, if you were Shane Beamer over the past 6 weeks, going through camp, coming into fall, going through fall camp, the last 2 weeks, going ahead and getting the installs done for Virginia Tech, how many first-team reps did you take away from guys who you know were going to be available on Sunday to put the ball into the gut of a guy that you did not know? And I can't imagine the answer is 0. I can't imagine that Shane Beamer said, no, Faison's getting every snap with the ones because we just know he's going to be ready. I know Beamer didn't, because at SEC Media Days, I thought that guy's head was going to explode like that scene out of Scanners every time somebody said the name Faison. He was so damn frustrated, right? So with all of that put together, I agree you are better off having him there, but I got to ask, is he fully ready? as the offense got the chemistry with him, as he got the chemistry with LaNorris, the way that he would had he been eligible 3 months ago when Shane Beamer wanted him. The point I'm making is, guys, this is still a game, and so will all of the other 11 games. This is a game where your fate, your destiny in this game is on LaNorris Sellers. I know that that's weak. I know it's cliche. I know we want to talk about defenses and who's going to replace him in Warrior and is the offensive line better, and that's all well and good. The stance I've taken and will stand on, boys, kick me off the stream if I'm wrong. You guys go as far as LaNorris Sellers takes you in 2025.
I don't think that's a bad take at all, Q. And I'll tell you why. We saw 16 grow so much last season, and obviously there are games that we lost because he just wasn't quite ready for that spot, right? He didn't quite handle. He didn't have that growth. It wasn't quite there. However, the stats in those last 5-6 games of the season, right? We saw that growth come, and that would leave Carolina fans optimistic. So if that's the case, Rob, if that's the case, I feel like South Carolina fans have to feel pretty good, fairly really, really good about this. I will say this, Rob, as far as Faison and what he's going to do on Sunday, workload wise, Shane Beamer took to the mic tonight at Carolina Calls down at Backstreet's Grill and said that he's going to be a major part of this offense on Sunday, and he blatantly made it. And we all knew that was going to be the case. But Rob, you have a great point. How many reps did he take away from, RB1 when we weren't sure what was going to happen? I mean, I told Q many times that this could potentially be like a Jalen Brooks situation that we ran into when Jalen Brooks was at South Carolina. You didn't know, right? You didn't know. But I'll also say to that, with these different running backs, Oscar Attaway, right? Isaiah that we brought in from Colorado, Juwan Howell, Matthew Fuller, any of these guys were going to be ready to carry the load. And I think the offense is going to click enough in this one to really get it going. And then you got SC State next week to really put it on, right? At least for a few quarters, whatever you need to do. But I see what you're saying. I definitely see what you're saying. Q, what are your thoughts?
I see where Rob's going. I got to play devil's advocate in it, Rob. This is the year I truly believe we actually going to go as far as Dylan Stewart and that defense takes us. The reason I say that is genuinely because I personally feel like the offense has already had to take that next step anyways. The real question mark everyone has had is what the defense is going to look like. Now, I've stated this, but now I got to put some caveats behind it. We have never been as deep as we are in the secondary since Shane Beamer has stepped foot on this campus. That is a fact. I know we had Nick E back there. I know we had the likes of, Marcellus Dow. We had O.D. Fortune last year. But when I say depth-wise, you're talking a group who returns Judge Collier, who, by the way, is now 6'2", 205 or 6 pounds of pure muscle. You bring in a Miles Norwood from Ball State, who was their best corner, was their lockdown guy, who was able to travel around with the top receiver for whatever, because you know as well as I do, Rob, what does Ball State do their first 3 or 4 games? Well, they go play they play top teams. They have to play top teams. That's how they earn their money. And so you have this guy doing that, but that guy is going to be a backup. So there goes my thing with depth. Brandon Cisse, arguably was the best player on North Carolina State's team last year. There's arguments that you could say CJ Bailey was. There's arguments you can say that the running back was. But when you're talking pound for pound importance on that team, Cisse was the top guy, but he was no lower than top 3. He is now on a Gamecocks team starting at the other corner position. At safety, DQ Smith returns. Peyton Williams, who I can't express enough, Rob. I cannot put into enough words what he has meant to this team every time his name has been called. I'm going to take you back to 2022 when Nicky Emmanwori got kicked out the game against Tennessee. Did you know, Rob, the guy that came in and played safety there was Peyton Williams? When Nicky Emmanwori left again in the Illinois game, guess who plays safety? Peyton Williams. Peyton Williams is ready for it, and we have the depth behind them with Gerald Kilgore, with Jalen Kilgore, who now could play safety, and we can move someone to nickel, i.e. Jalewis Solomon, who I'm very high on. Brian Cisse can move over there when you can put Vakari Swain at the other corner position. We just have the depth in that back end. Dylan Stewart is Dylan Stewart. There's no one here on this show, there's no one here on planet Earth that is going to question what Dylan Stewart is going to do. Now, on that opposite end is where the rubber meets the road. Well, Brian Thomas Jr. finally has his opportunity to show what he can do. He had 4.5 sacks last year, which is good. That's actually solid. But this year, you're going to have to double it. Minimum, you're going to have to double it. Because they're going to have to respect you enough to get off that double team of what they're going to do with Dylan. On the inside, Nick Barrett returns. Markel Goodwine is ready to take the next step. Dendy is having his opportunity that Markel had last year, coming from a bigger program, coming to South Carolina as a former 5-star recruit. And now you have your opportunity to showcase your talent. And that linebacker, we got more athletic. We just don't have the actual experience. But Fred J.R. Johnson has had the time to be behind some very talented guys in Demetrius Knight and Debo Williams and Bam Martin Scott to understand what it takes to be a linebacker in this league and be a linebacker on this team. And you brought two guys in that have SEC experience in Sean Murphy and Justin O to go along with Jaron Willis. I feel like people are thinking that's a step back for this defense. But this is what I say to him every time, Rob, and FG knows I say this. You guys did not know who Demetrius Knight was last year. You did not know who Kyle Kennard was last year. The reason you know them now is because of the development they got when they got to this campus and showcased on that field. So this showed you that the coaches know what they're doing. They know what they have in front of them. And now it's time for the next guys to step up. So I feel like if the defense does what they're supposed to do, Rob, that's what's going to take us where we need, because Lenoris has a year under his belt. That was the worst thing that could have happened to college football, was you gave Lenoris experience. And I'm going to be honest with you. Lenoris this year was on, with the experience, was on last year's team. Oh, Rob, not only are we a playoff team, Rob, we're a national championship contender. With that defense last year and Lenoris having experience, because Lenoris with experience would not make the same mistakes he made at Alabama. Lenoris with experience does not make the same mistakes he made against Illinois. He had to grow. So that's a ticket. I would have took whatever odds they were. I would have probably thrown a good chunk of money at that odds for us to be in the playoffs. So that's why I feel the way I feel about that, with the defense being the one.
I am 1,000% good with everything you said, as long as you acknowledge, Q, that is the most optimistic viewpoint. All right. And I say that because you sent 3 players in the first 4 rounds of the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. You lost talent at every level. And could not every defensive coordinator in America that had a situation where you sent a number of guys to the league go, well, clearly I can make NFL guys. So, like, we're just going to have more NFL guys. But that's not how it works. You know that. I know that. Unless you're Georgia and you're just, like, recruiting the 2029 Philadelphia Eagles defense every year, which they've been able to do, unless that's you. And I say this with all due respect, but if you don't agree with this, you're a blinded fan and my show's not for you. Y'all ain't Georgia. You're not Bama. You're not Ohio State. You're not in that category. I'm not saying you can't get there. I'm just saying you're not that now. So to go all in on an assumption that sending that many guys to the show and then you're just gonna turn around and have that many guys again, that's not how it works, man. If it was, you'd be Ohio State, you'd be Bama, you'd be Georgia. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying that whole take, I don't have an issue with it, provided we acknowledge it is the most 1,000% full throttle, all gas, no brakes, optimistic view of a possibility. I think the realistic view of the possibility is if you think that defense combined with a experienced Lenora Sellers was good enough to get you to a college football playoff and potentially a run at the Natty last year, I think realistically, you have to think realistically, you come back to the mean with defense, right? You come a little bit backwards. You're not going to stay at the level of, I don't know if you guys would agree with best defense in the history of South Carolina, but I'd say they were in the discussion last year. The reality is the most likely outcome, not definite, but most likely is you come back to the mean a little bit. So how do you make up for that? The answer is get that Alabama game right. The answer is get that LSU game right. The answer is take what you did in the fourth quarter, the third and fourth quarter against Clemson, and make that what you do every quarter, and then recognize and realize, as I said a minute ago, the back half of that schedule. I understand you should have beat LSU last year. In fact, I try not to be this guy. Even I was willing to say you guys got absolutely hosed and robbed and stolen from in that game. But you got a chance at revenge. You got to go down to Death Valley. You got to play in Baton Rouge. That is the most difficult place to play in all of college football. I do not care what a Buckeye says. Death Valley in Baton Rouge. I said this on the show knowing it was going to get me in trouble. The real Death Valley is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. End of discussion as far as I'm concerned.
Facts.
You got Oklahoma. Listen, I don't think Oklahoma's great. In fact, there's some rumors there that maybe the quarterback's not the guy that they'd hoped he was. We'd find out. I also know that everybody I've spoken to has said this Oklahoma team looks and feels different under Brent Venables. Tough game. You got to go to Alabama. Again, revenge game. 100% should have won. This game, you didn't get robbed.
We're at home this year with Alabama. Remember,
Yeah. You got Alabama coming to the crib. You're at Ole Miss. That's right. So you got Alabama coming to the house. Revenge game. But you better be perfect against Alabama. You better be perfect against Alabama because I think this is the year Kalen DeBoer shows, no, y'all got the right guy. You Bama fans were going to have to give me a minute. It was it wasn't a roster turnover. It was a complete and total turnover of culture and the way that things were done in Tuscaloosa. That takes more time than just, I got to flush that guy's guys out and get my guys in. It's not just being the dude behind the dude. It's being the guy behind the goat. That takes time. I think this is a step forward year for Kalen DeBoer. You got to be careful. Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Look, I don't think Ole Miss is a playoff team like some people do. I think they'll be fine. I think you have seen how good Jackson Dart really was, and I want you to think about that. The guy that has got people asking in the NFL, should this guy replace Russell Wilson as the starter in week one? Not after a few weeks. Now, week one, should it go from Jackson Dart to Jackson Start? That guy was there last year, and Ole Miss was as good as they were capable of being. But you also know Joey Freshwater gets TF up for these types of games, right? Especially if you boys are in a spot where, let's say at that point, you're sitting on 7-1 or whatever that number is. You know that's a get-up game for Lane Kiffin. Texas A&M. Look, Mike Elko, as far as I'm concerned, Mike Elko is probably the most underappreciated coach in college football right now. Mike Elko is a real one. I like this dude a lot. I can't stand Texas A&M. They're a cult. And Texas A&M fans, if you're not willing to acknowledge you're in a cult, that's the very first indicator that tells me you're in a cult. The yell leaders are weird, and I need you to stop. All right, just stop. Not male cheerleaders. Zero problem with that. I'm woke. The yell leaders are weird. Specifically, they're weird. You got to stop. All right, but Mike Elko's got some dogs down there, and you know Texas A&M's got NIL money that most teams cannot come close to pump it out. That's why they are a transfer portal winner and will be every year, forever and always. Tough game on the road. And, again, Kyle Field, which I affectionately refer to as the compound because, again, it's a cult. That's going to be a tough place to win. And then, of course, you know what that Clemson game means. Dabo Swinney said last year, I don't care if we have nothing to play for. I'm going to throw the starters out there and we're going to try to beat their ass every year because that's well, Dabo didn't say that, but paraphrase. The reality of this is I appreciate the optimism, Q, for the sake of daddy making some money, because if the Gamecocks go to the playoffs, I go on a remote and I get paid just to show up, drink some beer, and be me. And it's the greatest job of all time. I hope you're right, bud. But the reality is, unless you're Bama, Georgia, or Ohio State, you pump out a defense like you had last year, you're going to come back to what your average defense is. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm not saying it's going to be average. I'm just saying it's going to come back a little bit. How do you make up for that? You ride that Heisman Trophy candidate to 45 a game. That's how you make up for it.
I'll say this, Rob. I see what you mean. This is my rebuttal to that. It goes back to what I said earlier. Lenore Sellers is who he is. The hype is there. The offense only has the only thing the offense can do is go forward. I think this is the best receiving core we've had. We've had an amazing receiver coach in Mike Fury. Like, that was a diamond in a rough pick that Shane got his second chance to pick up on. I think the tight end room is more athletic. I understand that. But the issue I have is, Rob, we're going into game one with offensive line questions again. So, not the questions of are they good? The question is, why are we not have 5 cohesive players ready to go that we are very much aware of? My 5 that I want out there, Rob, and I've been very vocal about it. FG knows I've been very vocal. I want Thompson. I'll take Shed, Boaz, Tro, and Tree Babalati. That offensive line averages 315 consecutive pounds, Rob. That's what that offensive line averages. I take that group, I go forward. That's what I would have started on August 1st with. That's who would be walking out there protecting Lenoris on August 31st. If that was said to me from my sources, Rob, I would have jumped on that bandwagon with you. But what I do know is, though, Rob, I do know what's going to walk out there for defense. So I'm going to hang my hat on that defense. And the reason being I'm hanging a hat. Now, what I said was very elaborate. You're right. That's very much 100% optimism. And reality sets in. Are they going to have the same production as last year? Well, the answer to that is absolutely not. That was a special team. TJ Sanders, Tonka Hemingway, DeAndre Jules, if he was healthy, my God, that would have probably got us another win too. Cal Kennard, Gilbert Edmond. You had a lot there. You had a lot of depth. I'm a big believer in Desmond Umanzulu. Huge believer in Desmond Umanzulu. I feel like this is the year he puts it together. I just feel like the talent that's there, the defense that's there, if you hold your teams to the 20, 24-point mark every game, and the offense scores the way I feel the offense can, we're there. Now, here's my questions to you, Rob. That same LSU team that we're playing this year, what's going to be their Achilles heel this year that wasn't last year? Well, their offensive line. They had to replace 4 starters. That's a huge problem. One thing that does travel is defense. Your defense got to travel. That's going to be tough to protect Gus Nussmeier in those situations. Ole Miss, albeit you're right, I do not think they're a playoff team. But the biggest thing for them is they got to replace damn near their whole defense, bro. Oklahoma, it's proven. It's proven for Oklahoma. Because, Mateer, you're not playing Mountain West like you said, Rob. And Rob, let me be very clear. I ain't gonna josh on him. I didn't want to say nothing about Mateer until I saw a stat, Rob. They played what were they last year? 2-9? 2-9 Wyoming team at the end of the year. And I'm going to give you Washington State versus Wyoming score from last year. The game was 15-14. Rob. 15-14, Rob. But that wasn't the issue, Rob. Defensive game, I mean, who knew it was going to be like that, Rob? That wasn't my biggest issue. Here was my real issue. The guy you have coming in went 16 for 22 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception against a 2-9 Wyoming team at home. At home, Rob. They're going to have to show me something. And that offensive line is still got problems at Oklahoma. They may be better than last year, but they still got problems.
Yeah.
Now, Alabama, I agree with you, Rob. DeBoer knows this is I got to show you. I have to show you. But I'm going to say this, Rob, and I mean this with everything I love. There is something about a Saturday night in Columbia with expectations on the line. There's something about that timing. Because I believe Shane understands I got to get to the playoffs. If I want to keep up with the Joneses, the Ohio States, the Georgias, the all them, if I want to keep up and be able to compete, I have to do this. So, Rob, I understand what you're saying. We got to have a happy medium. But, Rob, with the talent on this team, I go back to my first statement. We have a college football playoff team. The question is, can because since 2011, which was, by the way, Rob, the best defense we've ever had in our lives, 2011 team. That's Clowney's first year. Melvin Ingram was on that defense. Stephon Gilmore, all those cats. That's the best that's the best defense that's ever walked the face of this earth that wore Carolina gear. But if this team wants to get to the 2011 type situations, they have to win with expectations because that's what 2011 did. So that's where I stand with that. And I get that, Rob, and I agree with you. So to put that there, my prediction for Carolina this year, I have to stand on it. It's 10-2 in the regular season, and we get to the playoffs.
I can say this about what Rob said about QB16, bro, about Lenore's. Take a look, and I know people have made the comparisons. I'm not saying the two are alike. Cam Newton's season with Auburn. Look at that season. Look at that defense. Look at that offense. Name one receiver that was on that Auburn offense. Name one. I can name one because he went to the Panthers.
Sammy Coates, right? Wait, wasn't Sammy Coates on there?
I can't remember if Sammy was on there or not. I can't remember. But we all know why Auburn had success.
Yeah, that man was different.
However, I will say this. South Carolina has a lot more talent at receiver than Auburn did that year. A lot more.
A full offseason for Nick Harbor does change a lot of narratives, though, Rob. That a full offseason with Nick Harbor, I think that does make you think a little bit.
Look, there are certain conversations that I have to I bring up. I shouldn't say I have to remind people. I bring up around this time every year. Q, do you know who else had a full off season? Every other football team in America, bud. Like that argument doesn't fly for me. Oh, with a whole off season. Yes, so did everybody else. Caitlin DeBoer had a full off season. Kirby Smart had a full off season. Hugh Freeze, who is going to get fired before the end of the year, had a full off season. Dabo Sweeney had a full off season. Everybody had a full off season. Like, I understand what you're saying, and I get it in that you got guys who did a hell of a lot of development last off season to put together the defense you put on the field, had a hell of a lot of development last off season to make Lenora Sellers a guy that had such a successful year that he comes into this year as the fourth or fifth shortest betting odds to win a Heisman. I get all that, and I agree with you, and that's a great thing. If Shane Beamer has put together a coaching staff, and you sound very high on him, and I respect that, appreciate it. I am too. I love the coaching staff, honestly. Like, I really do. There has really been only one, I thought, misfire on Shane Beamer's coaching staff, and it was the hire of Dal Loggins at offensive coordinator, right? Like, that's it. That's the misfire. I honestly love bringing Mike Shula in.
Yeah.
Mike Shula is kind of a Peter Principle OC, right? Like, guy's just not a head coach, but he's one of those guys like Cliff Kingsbury in the NFL. Not a head coach, but makes a damn fine offensive coordinator. Am I right, Jaden Daniels? So, with that being said, I like the hire of Mike Shula because I think Lenora Sellers is a guy you run a pro style that has an escape clause built into every play for him, right? You trust the big play. Again, assuming the wide receivers have upgraded, you both are running through a brick wall to convince me that they have. I respect it. I hope you're right. The issue is, and this is what I said at SEC Media Days when I covered it a couple of weeks ago over in Atlanta. I mean it when I say I look at this conference, and we were going through. I was part of the media poll that picked the SEC projected order of finish, and I pointed out the fact that I think you got Texas, I think you've got Georgia at the top. Consensus by the nation. Not everybody individually is going to agree with this, but like consensus from the media was it's Texas and Georgia up top. I have Georgia over Texas. Sure. We'll come to that later. Then you got a second tier group of teams. I think LSU's considered in that group. I think Alabama is in that group. And then you got a big ass stack of teams after that. That it's like half these teams are going to be very mid, and half these teams are going to join LSU and Alabama, right? Like half these teams are going to end the year 7-5, 6-6, fighting for bowl eligibility. And a couple of these teams are going to be 9-3. Maybe there's a 10-2 team in there. And the question mark is South Carolina one of those? The biggest thing going against you is I think you have the most holy bleep. How did we get screwed this way? Second half schedule in all of college football, right? Like Q, I was telling Q before we started the show a little while ago. He said, "Who's the team you're high on that nobody else is?" I said, "I got a ticket on Georgia Tech to make the college football playoffs," which I've gotten a lot of violent reaction for. But I said to Q, do me a favor, go look at that schedule. I'll give you a loss to Clemson. I'll give you a loss to Georgia. Go find me one more loss on that schedule that you feel confident is an L. And Q looked at it, went, there's not one.
I couldn't find it.
South Carolina's got the exact opposite problem, boys. I can look at the back half of that schedule. And I'm not saying will, but I can look at everybody. LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M, Clemson, with the exception of Coastal in that back 7 weeks. This is not meant to be disrespectful. I could see you winning or losing every one of those games. Honestly, I could see you winning every one of those games. I could see it. The reality is of those 6 games, there is no record from 6-0 to 0-6. There is no record in those 6 games that would surprise me. Not one. That you could go 0-6, 6-0, 3-3, 4-2, 2-4. No record in that stretch would surprise me. Here is what you do have come that is a positive net because of that reality, fellas. I think you've got room for 3 losses because I think a 3-loss Southeastern Conference team with the toughest schedule in the SEC, and my ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion, with the toughest schedule in the SEC, unless the 3 end up being to teams you should not lose to, which is any of the first 5 teams you play. I think a 9-3 Southeastern Conference team this year, and I've been saying this from the get, this could be the year for the first 3-loss at-large playoff team, right? And I've already said, I say this again, I appreciate you having me on the pod. I hope it's not the last time. I think the ceiling for this team is 9-3. And it's not just because, it's not at all because I don't think this team's a good football team. I do. I think you got shafted by the schedule makers. I think any injury to any starter on either side of the ball sets you back dramatically further than you think that it would, especially if it's to a big dog. And on top of that, again, it's a step back on defense. I hope you're right, Q. I hope you look like a damn filthy genius at the end of this year. And I'm texting my boy one night going, "You son of a biscuit, you know what the hell you're talking about. Good call." But the reality is, just based on the talent, that's probably not going to be the case. It's probably going to still be a good defense. Step back. But Like I said, the good news is, as a result of that, you can go 9-3 and make the playoffs as the 12th seed here. I really do believe that. If you beat the hell out of Virginia Tech, you beat the hell out of Vanderbilt, you beat the hell out of Missouri, and you beat the hell out of Kentucky. I think you need all the brownie points you can get, and then you can make that happen. The good news is, I think that is more realistic than going 6-0 or 5-1 in the final 7 games.
Let me ask you this, Rob. How crucial is it, though, when these teams, let's say, for example, that we have on this backstretch, right? But these teams that before they play us, they're going to Texas, they're playing at Texas, they're playing at Alabama, at Tennessee, right? How much of that takes is a factor, though, with this before they come play us? Because we all know, and we say this all the time, right? As fans, South Carolina fans, SEC fans in general, ACC teams, they can't come to the SEC and do what they do in the ACC and the SEC because they don't play against that talent week in and week out. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's fair, and I'll tell you what I have not done. Well, let me phrase that. I haven't done it recently enough that I can do it off the top of my dome. But it's to go look at the week's opponents before for those teams when South Carolina plays them. Here's the problem you run into with that one, FG. Problem is, in every one of those games, with the exception of Clemson, you're playing a badass team the weekend before too, right? Like, I think this is, and I say this respectfully.
Sure.
It's kind of like Q with the offseason take. I think this is one of those things as fans that we are always looking for the silver lining, the best possible way to look at a thing for our team. And so to look at that schedule and go, well, LSU's got Bama the week before they play us. They're going to beat the hell. Yeah, I got you, man. So are you, right? Oklahoma's got Texas the week before that in the Red River rivalry. Cool, but you got LSU the week before that. You're going to be beat up too. It's the same argument as we had a full off season. Yeah, well, so did every other of the 135 other college football teams. Like, if you took advantage of it, great. If you took advantage of it, it's absolutely an asset. But if everybody else took advantage of it, it's not an asset. It's just the offseason, right? It's kind of the same thing. Yes, I'm sure a few of those 6 teams out of the final 7 games that are, although I do not think all of them, and I don't think most of them are playoff teams, they all come into the year expecting to be playoff teams, right? Of your final 7 games, 6 of them are against top 20 teams in college football. Do you know what that means? That means you are stacking a top 20 team and then a top 20 team and then a top 20 team and then so yeah, like great. Oklahoma played Texas the week before. Cool, bro. You were in a B slap fight too, man. I don't know that that's as much of it as an advantage as it would be if you had Oklahoma coming off of Texas and you were coming off of Coastal, right?
Right.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, thoughts, Rob. This is the first time, I mean, being a Carolina fan or covering South Carolina, seeing any other school out there not releasing the depth chart for week 1. What are your thoughts about that on not releasing the depth chart?
I saw that, and I saw that before you didn't release a depth chart. Shane Beamer called Brent Pry and just said, hey, heads up, we're not doing this. And I want you to know, like, it's not gamesmanship or anything like that. We just, I don't know, like on one hand, I get it. On the other hand, what? Right? Like what? And I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's not something I'm used to. It's obviously not something that happens very often. I wish I could give you like a solid take on here's why, and I think it was this and it was that and the other. The answer is I genuinely don't know. And because I don't know, I saw some people today that were kind of going doom and gloom about it, right? Well, that just means that Shane doesn't have guys that really stepped up and grabbed their position by the throat. And then I saw other guys who were going, well, this probably means that you got so many guys who did step up and grab their position by the throat that Shane's taken till the very last minute to decide who gets the PT. This is one of those times that my boss gets real mad at me as a sports talk radio show host because I'm supposed to have a great take that stirs up some controversy. Here's the take, boys. You don't know why he didn't put out a depth chart. I don't know why he didn't put out a depth chart. Ross Dellinger doesn't know why he didn't put out a depth chart. Josh Pate doesn't know why he didn't put. None of us know why he did not put out a depth chart. Will we find out by the end of the first quarter? Maybe. But to sit here, anybody grabbing a mic today and going, let me tell you why Shane Beamer didn't put out a depth chart. Ain't but 2 people who know that, which is Shane Beamer and Mrs. Shane Beamer. That's the only two. I guarantee it.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're not. He's not the only one. I think Michigan also did, and some team made fun of it too. They made a fake depth chart with all the different players from football movies and stuff. They had Thad Castle and from Blue Mountain State on there and stuff. It was funny. But no, I mean, great points all around, honestly. Rob, we're going to take a quick break real quick. We're going to get the word from our sponsors over the Believe Network to get their words in, and we'll be right back. Good stuff so far, fellas. Good stuff.
Y'all regret having me back yet?
Hell no.
Oh,
Hell no. Hell no. Love it here.
Sounds like Missouri might have lost their starting quarterback.
They were playing too, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. They're up 12-0 over Central Arkansas in the second quarter.
Christ, they suck.
All right, here we go in a 5-second countdown. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, good stuff. So you're talking a little Gamecock ball, but obviously, with us, we talk college football all around. We bring Rob Brown on the show, and just bringing this up. I mean, I think Rob picked Travis Hunter last year, but FG over here up 2 years in a row for Heisman. 2 years in a row with a Heisman pick. Q, Rob, where y'all at with the Heisman picks for the last 2 years?
Q, we've been in fuego, winning mucho dinero the last couple of years. And I got to tell you, brother, I'm stuck this year, dog. I'm stuck this year. I really am, right? Like, I got 95% of the media telling me Arch Manning is football Jesus. Football's going to change this year because of him. Paul Feinbaum's out here. My man's doing everything but providing sexual favors to Arch Manning the way he talks about him. All right.
He ain't lying.
I don't know what to make. In fact, on the show about 3 weeks ago, I played the audio from Steve Spurrier, who was on Pat Dooley's podcast. He's a big Florida guy down in Gainesville. And Spurrier said, well, if Arch Manning really is that good, how did he not beat out Quinn Ewers last year?
That's all I ask.
Right?
Every time I ask the same question, Rob.
Yep.
If he was that good, and I know he's not making more than Quinn, or I know Quinn was not making more than Archie's in NIL, so it can't be that. And you can't tell me Sark is not serious about winning an actual championship. So you're gonna have to show me why it was the way it was.
That's my take, and I think it is genuinely fair to ask questions about Arch. I went on, and this is not something I've ever done before. I went on and defended Steve Spurrier from people who were going after the guy. Oh, Arch Manning's just you don't know that. I don't know that. In fact, who the number one guy at SEC Media Days was downplaying Arch Manning and all the hype? Friggin' Arch Manning. He was like, guys, I played 2 games. Like, what do we do? Like, what are we doing here? In fact, I walked away from that. Like, I like this kid even more now. I like him as a dude. I don't know about the players. We'll find out. So then I'll look around the rest of the quarterbacks. Cade Klubnik's thrown out there. Look, you cannot deny the numbers that Cade Klubnik put up last year. I don't care how much you hate the Clemson Tigers. You can't deny the numbers he put up last year were spectacular. And on top of that, this year, Cade Klubnik has the best set of wide receivers that Clemson has had in that locker room in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years at this point, right? I think you got to have him in contention. Do they want to give it to a not quarterback? If so, I think Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame, the running back, has got a chance to potentially at least catch the invite. I would love every year if there was a defensive guy who got the call and the opportunity. I just don't know that there's got that guy. I'm going to keep it a buck with a Q, and I'm interested to hear if you've landed on somebody and where, because I got like 2 guys that I think I'm kind of putting as the front runner this year. I'm having a hard time. Jaden Daniels was a layup for me. He was the only guy I had a ticket on. Travis Hunter last year was a layup for me. He was the only guy I had a ticket on. I'm in a spot where I'll tell you who they are after you tell me and see if we land on the same spot again, Q. I got 2 guys I have a ticket on right now to win it. And I don't know. I don't know which one of them. I don't know if either one of them is going to get it, because I think there's a lot of conversation that has to take place about the teams and the schedules and the opponents. And I'll get to all that in a minute. but I need to see where Q's at. Because if we line up on the same thing, people get your ass in the car and drive up to Asheville, North Carolina, load up on FanDuel and bet your house on it. Because if Q and I are in sync again, somebody's getting called the shot tonight.
I've got three. Three. Arch because of the hype. It's hard to fight the hype. You know as well as I do, Rob. Hype gets you a lot of places. And with the schedule Texas has, beyond Ohio State, they really don't have a game where it's a surefire L, in my personal opinion. I can see the Arch. Cade, because of numbers, I can see it with the Cade. If the season goes the way I think it will, you're going to have to throw Lenore Sellers in there. You're going to have to throw LS in there. You're going to have to. And that's even going off of what you said as well, Rob. I can't flex. The team goes as far as Lenore's. If Lenore's carries them to a college football playoff, Lenore should be in New York as well. We can both agree on that.
Q, not only can we both agree on that, those are exactly the guys I got. Exactly.
Hey, to Asheville, people go.
Yep.
Get on the road. Get on up there. Get on now.
Those are
go
exactly the three I got. Now, I will tell you this. The smallest bet I have out is on Arch Manning. If Arch Manning hits, I'm going to make just a little bit back on the total of the three bets I put down. And the reason why is traditionally the favorites the last handful of years, the favorites entering have not been winning the thing. All right. Just the trend is whoever enters the season with the shortest odds has not been winning the thing. You've had to go with a bigger plus money dog somewhere down the stretch. I was very tempted to put Garrett Nussmeier on the list. In fact, I had yesterday, I did a interview with Matt Moscona from Baton Rouge, ESPN Baton Rouge, who's become, he's a big deal in the social media world. And he said, I think that Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik are the two best quarterbacks in football. And I wouldn't even disagree. Honestly, I think Garrett Nussmeier, in terms of just being a quarterback, I think Garrett Nussmeier may be in that group. Here's the problem. And I've had this take on LSU for a while. If LSU loses to Clemson, then I think LSU can lose to Florida. And if LSU loses to Florida and they start the season 1-2, Brian Kelly has proven to the world that he's kind of a butthole like a lot of the time, right? Like he's kind of a butthole a lot of the time. He was a butthole at Notre Dame. He ditched Notre Dame to go to LSU, and he did it in a gross way. Notre Dame immediately goes to a national championship game 2 years later, right? He goes down to Baton Rouge. He shows up. He does the whole dumbass, the LSU family thing, makes himself look like a moron. Like you got to have charisma to pull that off, and he doesn't. And then the Any Given Saturday documentary drops on Netflix, which I'll tell you, I thought was a great piece. And if you are the type of dude, and I mean this, I'm impressed by it. If you are the type of dude that can know that you've got documentary cameras in your face, and even if they say, hey, pretend we're not here, be as natural as you can be. If you can know that you've got documentary cameras in your face and they are there literally to film you and nothing else, and you can still come across as an a-hole, you're just kind of an a-hole, right? Like that's just all there is to it. And the problem for a guy like Brian Kelly is this. If your team is winning, undefeated, maybe a one-loss team, you're in the playoff discussion, cool, you can get away with that, man. We saw Nick Saban do it all the time. I'm going to tell you all straight up, and I say this with all due respect in the world. Unless you could do something for Nick Saban didn't have the time of day for you, all right? And it, again, successful. But you can get away with that if you're stacking and racking rings and natties, boys. Brian Kelly ain't done that. And the problem with a guy like Brian Kelly is, if that team starts 1-2, I said on a show earlier today, Brian Kelly, Peter Burns of the SEC Network said Brian Kelly is not on the hot seat. Sure, okay, let's say that's true. You know what he is doing? You know how when you go to the bar and you got to poop, but you know you're not going to make it home, so you like do the hover over the seat thing where you grab the two handrails and you kind of hold yourself over the seat? That's what Brian Kelly's doing with the hot seat right now. He's doing that weird, the bathroom's dirty, but I'm not going to make it home, hover squat kind of thing on the hot seat. He starts 1 and 2. He's going to do that thing where that one foot slips and ass cheeks meet toilet seat on the hot seat. Like, that's where he's at right now. So my thought is they start 1 and 2, or if they drop 2 of the first 6, which is absolutely potentially in play for LSU, Brian Kelly starts to feel the pressure. And if Brian Kelly starts to feel the pressure because he drops 1 at Ole Miss, because South Carolina comes to the crib and beats him, Brian Kelly's just going to turn into a bigger butthole. And at some point, that team's going to unravel. And I think they got close to it last year.
We should have done
on top of
it. We should have tipped the scale. If we would have tipped the scale, I think they would have unraveled.
If you would have tipped the scale last year, Brian Kelly would officially and definitively be on the hot seat this year. But you got it taken from you. Yeah. I think he is, as I say on the radio program, he's on the hot seat for the hot seat. He's on the hot seat that says, if you don't get off this hot seat next year, you're on the hot seat. And I think they fall apart. I really do. I think LSU falls apart. And I think it may cost Garrett Nussmeier a Heisman Trophy. So I got a baby ticket out on Arch Manning because the hype is real. And the hype is real enough that even if it ends up not being it, it's kind of one of those, there's way too much smoke for there not to be a fire thing with Arch's odds. And then my 2 big bets are the 2 quarterbacks from right here in South Carolina. I got a ticket on Lenora Sellers because I firmly believe, and this attaches to what I said earlier, you guys go as far as Lenoris takes you. We can talk about the defense, the offensive line, the run game, face on. That's all great. And I hope all that is every bit as good as Q wants it to be. But you guys go as far as Lenora Sellers take you. And if the South Carolina Gamecocks find their way into the playoffs, even if it is as a 9-3 team and the first 9-3 at-large team out of the SEC, it'll be because Lenora Sellers had himself a banger of a year and earned a trip to New York. And if he does not, y'all, I'm having a hard time talking myself out of picking Clemson to win the national championship. And if that is the case, Cade Klubnik, who is already the shortest odds to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft next year, it'll be his. It is a 3-horse race. And while I cannot, with any definitiveness, as I have the last 2 years, said, don't waste your time plugging in a bunch of bets, this is your guy, I'm plugging in 3 this year. Arch, Cade Klubnik, Lenora Sellers.
Okay. I like it. A good Heisman odds.
And it's crazy. Nuss was my 4th. So I was with you 110%. But that's why I didn't pick him to be top 3, because I genuinely believe they're not going to do enough like they did last year for him to be in New York. Because did he have the stats to be in New York last year? Absolutely. He didn't have the quality wins behind it to be in New York, which was his issue. So I'm with you on that. I have a hard time picking. I don't want Clemson to get their first Heisman Trophy winner, but would I be shocked if it becomes Cade because of the year and the situation he's in? Can't say I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
But I will say this, though, about them, though, Clemson. I do want to say this. Hot take. Clemson is successful this year. And when I say successful, I think a repeat of the playoffs, but I don't know if they'll win it all this year. I do believe Garrett Riley is gone no matter what this year. He's going to get a head coaching job. And I don't think Dabo is able to replace what he loses this year, which in turn will put Clemson from dominant to regular for the ACC. They won't be dominant anymore. They'll just be a regular top team who's in that mix, along with, like, depending on what Bill Belichick does over there, you know, becomes one of those regular teams that are hovering at the top but doesn't always get there. So that's my next hot take.
The only thing I say about Clemson, though, I mean, we look at last year's game in the playoffs. They didn't lose to Texas because of Cade Klubnik, right?
They lost because
of the defense. They lost because of that run defense, the way that defense played. And honestly, the way Penn State fans have reacted about losing Tom Allen I'm not saying Tom Allen can't be a great defensive coordinator, but is he that guy? Right? Is he that guy?
Here's where I've landed on that. Tom Allen does two things that I think help out the Clemson Tiger defense this year. And I'm on the record saying I've said it on 4 or 5 different shows. I think Clemson has the best front seven in college football this year. I do. I think they have the best front seven. And Tom Allen, and he did this last year at Penn State. This is why that Penn State defense was better than anybody gave it credit for. Everybody focused on Drew Aller and James. The defense got Penn State where the defense got Penn State last year. The problem was they ran up against the buzzsaw and Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks last year. Here's what Tom Allen does. He does two things. Number one, Tom Allen, who did have, let's acknowledge, 4 NFL draft picks in his front seven last year. I think Clemson's working with probably minimum 2, maybe 3, possibly 4. Tom Allen does something that I wish more head coaches were capable of doing, more coordinators were capable of doing. And that is Tom Allen is going to fit the scheme to the players, not jam the players into the scheme. But what I mean by that is Tom Allen is going to blitz you, but it's real simple, boys. It's real simple. He's going to let the best players take advantage when they are in a position to take advantage of. It's not overtly complicated. I think Wes Goodwin there at Clemson the last couple of years got carried away and outthought himself sometimes. I think he got a little deeper into the game than he necessarily needed to. Tom Allen's the exact opposite. We're going to play as simple as we can play and be successful. And if that means we're putting 4 with hands in the ground, 3 up behind them, and we're just going to pick one to send and that works, that's what we're going to do. If we need to start stunting on the defensive line to open up some spots, we'll add that to the wrinkle. If we need to start moving linebackers over the top of tackles, whatever, then we'll add that in. But he's going to play as simple football as the talent allows him to do so inside of the scheme that fits the players, not the other way around. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not saying that he has as much talent as he did behind Abdul Carter and the boys in Penn State last year. I'm saying he ain't that far behind it. My take has been, if Clemson is going to win a national championship this year, Cade Klubnik might win the Heisman because of it, but I think it will be the defense. It'll be the defensive front seven behind Peter Woods and TJ Parker that wins that championship for them.
This is why I don't think they get there, Rob. I don't think they have the depth. I don't think behind the first 11, that's where they're going to struggle. And if a team starts going bumper to bumper with you, it gets kind of bad when you don't have the depth to come in and at least neutralize. I'm not saying you need the depth to be as good as the starters, but they need to be able to do something. And I'm wondering if do they have that. So I agree with you, Rob, but that's where you're going to find out. And you're going to find out early when they play LSU.
Honestly, I don't think that's unfair. I really don't think that's an unfair take. I don't think it's a wild take. I don't think it's a hot take. I don't think it's an unfair take. I think that I think it's very much a possibility. I agree with you. I do not think that there is a lot of wiggle room back there. I do not think that there is a lot going on. I would also point out that we haven't even gotten to this yet. Fellas, I would also point out that I don't know what the hell the run game is for Clemson this year either. All right, Adam Randall moving over from wide receiver to RB1. Here's the other part that we have talked about. I don't know if this is a hot take. Lonzo thinks this is a hot take. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I think the ACC is going to be better than anybody's giving it credit for being. I'm not saying it's going to be the SEC. I think the ACC could theoretically compete with the Big Ten. Maybe not at the very top, but depth of conference. I think they can. And here's what I mean by that. I think Clemson is clearly the runaway favorite to win this conference. I think people are a little bit asleep on what Carson Beck accomplished at Georgia. And I heard the argument yesterday that Carson Beck accomplished what Carson Beck accomplished at Georgia because Georgia's just got friggin' NFL athletes all over the field. And that might be true. But he did wrap up 24-3. He did take them to an SEC title game. And while Gunnar Stockton came in to finish that game after Carson Beck got hurt, Carson Beck had them in the driver's seat to win the SEC championship game last year as well. The only issue I have with Miami is Mario Cristobal is incapable of coaching a tight game without slamming his own genitalia in the door over and over and over again. So I'm out on Miami, But let's not pretend that Cristobal gets it right. Miami's not a threat. SMU was there last year with Clemson. Clemson had to walk it off against SMU in the ACC title game. They lose their running backs for sure. But any team that's got a dude like Kevin Jennings, this is why I think South Carolina is a borderline playoff team. Exact same thing with SMU, because Kevin Jennings is a dog. I'm not in the boat of Florida State's going to bounce back.
Hell no.
I do know there are a lot of people that think that Florida State's going to bounce back. And I ask every one of them that says that to me, fellas, what does bounce back mean? Does it mean 7-5, 6-6, 8-4? Do you think it means 10-2? I'm not there with them yet. I don't think they're going to be as bad as last year, because I look at the kids who transferred out. They were the same kids who transferred in and played like ass last year. I think Florida State's going to be better, but I think they're going to be better as in fighting for a bowl spot this year. But maybe not. Maybe Mike Norvell captures that magic from the Jordan Travis, Johnny Wilson transfer portal class, and Florida State's back. I look at Louisville. Miller Moss comes over from USC. You know Jeff Brom will throw that damn football 95 times a game. You know he's going to try to put 50 up in every game.
Sleeper.
If Miller Moss is the dude that USC recruited him to come be, and he partners up with Jeff Brom, tell me the Cardinals don't look a little bit dangerous.
Sleeper.
Pat Marduzzi. He's desperate this year. A lot of folks in the ACC Media Days that were very high on the Pitt Panthers. A lot of sleeper portal talent came in there. And then there's two more. North Carolina wildcard team. What the hell is Bill Belichick? Frankly, I think that's going to be a freaking mushroom cloud of a disaster in Chapel Hill.
Me too.
But maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe Bill Belichick is that guy. That's a wild card. Syracuse. I think they're a long, long way from getting there. But here's what I will tell you. I do a couple of radio shows in New York 2-3 times a year. And the folks up in New York effing love Fran Brown. They love the guy. And more importantly, when I was talking to the Syracuse players that the Orange brought to ACC Media Days, bro, they are ready to go to war for Fran Brown. They are ready to go to war for this guy. I'm not saying they're going to be good. I'm saying they're interesting when they get into those games where they could upset somebody who is. And then Q, I brought him up once. I'm going to bring him up again. Actually, two teams I brought him up once. I'm going to bring him up again. Number one, the Duke Blue Devils, 9-win football team last year. The Duke Blue Devils won 9 games last year. Now, did Manny Diaz get his ass handed to him in Miami, learn some lessons, and he's a good coach now? Or was Mike Elko the best coach that the Duke Blue Devils ever had, and he left the roster stacked when he took off? We're going to find out this year. But if it's Manny Diaz being a good coach, that team's interesting. And then there's the team that I said earlier in the show, I have got a ticket on them to make it to the college football playoff this year, and I feel good about it. The Georgia Tech Ramblin' Brent. Brent Key is a football dude. He does not give a damn about branding or endorsements or advertisements. He gets on the phone. He calls boosters. He says, give us money if you want us to win, and that's it. He has built this team from the outside in, or from the inside out. He has started with the offensive line and moved out. He has started with the nose tackle on defense and moved out. And by the way, what position did Brent Key play at Georgia Tech? Offensive line. And he was a damn good one, so he knows what's up. And then I add in the fact that, and this, if there's a Georgia Tech hot take, it's this one, but I don't think it's that hot. I think Georgia Tech might have the best quarterback running back duo in college football this year between Jamal Haynes and Haynes King. I think they might be the best quarterback running back duo in football entering the 2025 football season. I put all that together. Y'all, I think the Georgia Tech Ramblin' Rex finished in 10-2 this year. They may very well be an ACC title game opponent of Clemson, but even if they're not, I think the ACC could get 3 teams in this year, and I think Georgia Tech could be one of them. The point of all of that is, I know a lot of people are thinking it's a cakewalk for Clemson, not just to an ACC title, but for one of those 4 seeds to catch the opening round bye. I don't think it's as easy as everybody wants to make it out to be for the Clemson Tigers. I really don't. Now, if they get there, like I said, I think they'll get there because that defensive front 7 is NFL caliber, and now they got a guy who knows how to use it, when I think Wes Goodwin was, respectfully, a little bit out of his depth in the DC spot there at Clemson. But this is not going to be a cakewalk season for Clemson like a lot of people think it's going to be. That Georgia Tech game at Atlanta, they can absolutely lose that game. That game against Louisville, they can absolutely lose that game. You don't think SMU wants to kick Clemson in the nads out of what happened in the ACC title game last year? They absolutely can. Duke. I mean, how does Duke put a bigger exclamation point on a 9-win year last year than knock off the team that is way the shortest odds to win the conference this year? Again, I'm not saying Florida State is back, but if they are, that's how you make a statement. You beat Clemson in their crib to say, hey, last year was the biggest fluke in the history of college football. That ain't who the hell we are. We're back. Guys, I know a lot of people are picking cakewalk Clemson to a first round bye. I'm not there yet.
I got to say, Rob, you kind of put more of a target on Clemson's back than what I've heard from everybody else around the media world, and that says a lot because I mean you're in the upstate, you hear it all the time, you're around it more than any of us are. So that's impressive. Q, what are your thoughts about that one, Q? Thinking about hearing how the ACC maybe more to play than what everybody thought.
I mean, I agree 110% with Rob. Rob has laid it out perfectly. I disagree with anything Rob has said. Louisville is one of my biggest sleeper teams when it comes to the ACC. Louisville is in the spot where South Carolina is. Louisville could shock the world and be in the ACC, and people will be shocked, but you can't say they don't have talent to do it. They have one of the best running backs in the nation. Brown is nasty. That kid can flat out run the ball. Like, after Love, I'm not going to lie to you, Rob, that's my second favorite running back is Brown. I genuinely believe wholeheartedly you have a Pitt team who has a very good linebacker core, a very, very good linebacker core, and they had Clemson on the ropes. On the ropes. I agree wholeheartedly the ACC is going to be better this year. Outside of, honestly, Dave Dorian, who I think is just a dead man walking, I see a lot of toss-up games. I don't think Miami's going to get to Charlotte. They're going to do what they do every year. They book hotels for December and then they sell them to you come November. They're not going to make it there. I can't lie to you. Rob changed me today.
Yeah,
that Georgia Tech one is I see some, as long as Haynes King is healthy, I cannot argue with what I've heard. I think Florida State's overrated. I don't see them making any noise. I think Norvell is not a good.
Overrated. They didn't get a vote in the poll. They are rated. They're awful.
Their fans feel like they're 8 wins coming. 100% feel like 8 wins, and I just feel like it's too much confidence in their fan base. I just want them to humble themselves.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. You remember what I said earlier when I said anybody that is saying that they know X, Y, or Z sometimes in sports media, it's because they just have to take a side. Anybody who says they know what Florida State is this year is a liar. Anybody who says this is what Florida State is, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Anybody who says that is a liar, because this is the same team that had negative odds to be a playoff team last year and they went 2-10. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to keep it a buck. Mike Norvell went from, oh, damn, we just found the dude, to who the hell is this dude in one season? Anybody who is telling you it is a bounce back year or they are going to do X, Y, and Z is taking a stab in the dark.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
So that's why I look at, so to round it out, to kind of close us out, my pick for ACC, I got Georgia Tech. I'm going to go to Georgia Tech. I've been convinced. It's going to be Georgia Tech or Clemson, but I'm going to take a stab in the dark. I'm going to go Georgia Tech. For the SEC, because of their schedule, I feel like Texas is going to win the SEC. Their schedule fits them perfectly to win the SEC. For the Big 12, I got Iowa State. I got Iowa State because what they did in Ireland, I'm kind of like they got something there. And I looked at their schedule. I think Iowa State gonna make some noise. The Big 10, I got Penn State. Are they gonna choke it away? Probably. But I got Penn State. And so for my 4 there, and then for the Natty, as a fan, of course, y'all know where I want Carolina to be there. I want Carolina to win it all. Realistically, I think the championship game is going to come down unfortunately, to Texas and Clemson with Texas winning it. It's unfortunate, but I can see it. That's how I got. That's what Q got. But I got South Carolina making the playoffs. I got Carolina making the playoffs. And Shane is now going to take that trajectory where he needs to go.
All right. Here, I'll run through mine. Why the hell not? And I'll give you my rationale on all of them. ACC, give me Clemson. Listen, I'm all in on Georgia Tech. Ain't no doubt about it. I can see Georgia Tech in the championship game. I've already said I think Georgia Tech could theoretically, genuinely upset Clemson in Atlanta this year because that team. I've got a buddy of mine who goes over to Atlanta for 3 days a week for work, and he's told me a number of times. Atlanta, Georgia, around Georgia Tech is absolutely buzzing right now. Like that team genuinely thinks that they're somebody. But Clemson's too good of a football team, man. It's just too good. Best front seven in football. The way that I look at, the way that I make my picks every year, fellas, is I say who's got the best roster and who's got the fewest questions that need to be answered. And honestly, to me, that is Clemson this year. They got the best roster that has the fewest questions to be answered. Not to say they have none. We talked about running back, got questions there, but fewest questions. I'm taking Clemson out of the ACC. Out of the Big 12, I'm taking Arizona State. Why? Sam Leavitt, and he's got the best wide receiver core out there. Mm-hmm. I like Iowa State. Tough-nosed team. That win over Kansas State in Dublin, Ireland was ugly, but it was a good win for Iowa State. Iowa State needed to. The whole key to that game for me was, can Iowa State make this game ugly as hell? Because that's what they got to do to win this game, and they did exactly that. But not only is Sam Leavitt and the gang the best quarterback in that conference with the best wide receiver core in that conference, y'all, I'm going to tell you another one. Kenny Dillingham, head coach in Arizona State. That's a dude. That's a guy. That's a guy who's got it figured out. My favorite story going right now in college football. They need to raise $5 million to get their indoor practice facility to get caught up with everybody else. How did Arizona State decide to do that? They went to the fans and say, look, we'll make you a deal. Y'all raise us the $5 million to build that indoor practice facility. And on game days, we'll open it up. We'll let y'all tailgate and get absolutely ass-face drunk in it before games. That's the most Arizona State Sun Devil thing I've ever heard in my freaking life, boys. When they say, you give us $5 million, and it is your building on Saturdays in the fall. You can come in there with all the funnels and beer pong you want. Let's go bananas. He gets it. That school gets it. I like Arizona State. Out of the SEC, I'm actually taking Georgia. And I'll tell you why. It's the same reason I'm not picking Texas to win the national championship. Everything we said about Mario Cristobal a little while ago in Miami Q, about how this dude constantly screws it up in big games, I've said a number of times. That loss to Georgia Tech that kept Miami out of the playoffs last year, that was the most egregious football mistake I've ever seen in my life. If I was the athletic director at Miami, Mario Cristobal wouldn't have made it back down to the damn locker room because my 6-year-old nephew would have known what to do if he was playing EA Sports on the Xbox in that spot. All right? Like, you just can't. Let's not pretend Steve Sarkisian's that much better, boys. All right? Let's go back to that Texas-Ohio State game. Let's go back to the fact that the Texas Longhorns had the ball in a goal-to-go situation inside the 10-yard line. And Steve Sarkisian came up with the worst 4 play calls of the entire season when he had to have a touchdown. You got Arch Manning on the bench, and you're going to try to run with a power back, an end around against the best linebacking core in defense? What? What are we doing, Steve-O? I am out on that team because I am out on Steve Sarkisian. And oh, by the way, let us not pretend for a second like Steve Sarkisian wasn't doing that when he was coaching out in the Pac-12 years ago, too. It's just who he has been his entire coaching career. So I'm out on Texas. Give me Georgia. Why? Exact opposite. If I said right now, you can pick any coach in college football to run your game for one championship game, you're telling me there's anybody you're picking but Kirby Smart? Get out of town, dog.
Point.
You're absolutely not.
Fair point.
Give me the Georgia Bulldogs to win the SEC. Out of the Big Ten, I've said this one a few times on the show, fellas. There's a weird thing happening around the Penn State Nittany Lions right now. All right. Every year, I've been going to ACC and SEC. Well, I've been going to ACC Media Days for 5 years. This is my first year at SEC Media Days, but I talked to a lot of folks there, and they all said the same thing. In years gone by, annually, the joke around every other conference's media day is, y'all hope Penn State wins the Big Ten so that Big Game James hands somebody a free dub in the playoffs or in the Natty. Just hope Penn State gets there. That joke was not getting made this year at ACC Media Days. That joke was not getting made at SEC Media Days. In fact, quite the opposite. The conversation about Penn State was complimentary, dare I say, close to fearful. Now, I will also say, go look at Penn State's 3 losses last year. Go look at the regular season loss. Go look at the Big Ten title game loss. Go look at the playoff loss. Drew Aller sucked in all 3 of those games. He sucked in all 3 of those games. So there is a question here. And it is similar to the question I asked about Arch earlier in the show. If Arch Manning wasn't good enough to beat out Quinn Ewers last year, and let's say he wasn't, because if he was, I assume Steve Sarkisian would have started him. If he wasn't good enough to beat out Quinn Ewers last year, are you telling me that Arch went from not good enough to beat out Quinn Ewers to football Jesus in one off season? You're telling me one off season took him from I can't beat Quinn Ewers to rename the Heisman Trophy after me? I'm not buying it, fellas. I'm not. Well, Drew Aller was one off season enough to take him from guy who performs exceptionally well, except in the biggest games, except in the games that matter the most to Penn State. Now, I think that's more realistic of a jump in one off season, but it's not a guarantee. That being said, Penn State has got an SEC caliber offensive and defensive line. They've been able to run the football for years. I don't think that's going to change. And as much as I love the Buckeyes, Julian Sayin might be a dog. Guys, they lost as much talent as anybody else did that nobody's talking about. A lot of heart and soul players from that Buckeye team last year. The only thing that is a caveat in this, guys, to me, is the Oregon Ducks. And Q, I'm gonna say the same thing about the Ducks that I did about Georgia Tech. Dante Moore might be a dog. I got a lot of folks telling me a Heisman bet on Dante Moore, the quarterback at Oregon, might be a smart play. Part of the reason for that is go look at the Ducks schedule. They don't have Michigan. I mean, they got the easiest schedule in the Big Ten. The Oregon Ducks did, right? So maybe because they have the easiest schedule in the Big Ten, the Ducks find their way in. The question mark is, can Penn State outpace Ohio State to get there? And I think the answer might be yes, because I do think Penn State beats Oregon in a whiteout game. That is the whiteout game for the Nittany Lions. Oregon's not going in there and winning that game. So I've got Penn State winning the Big Ten. And by the way, I'll give you one more hot take. You want a real long shot to make the playoffs, boys? Give me Blake Horvath and the Navy midshipmen to be your Group 5 representatives this year. All right? That dude is a dude. And I'll give you one more. I don't think he's going to win it, so I won't bet him to win it. Give me a ticket on Blake Horvath to be a Heisman Trophy finalist this year, too. Give me that. Go look at that dude's numbers.
Wow.
Give me, not to win it, but to be a finalist. Because, come on, guys. What's going to go over greater right now for the Heisman Trophy Committee than having a midshipman, a service academy quarterback be a finalist? They're going to go gaga for that, right? So, blah, blah, blah. Give me Navy. As far as the championship goes, I am going to take Clemson. I am going to take Georgia. And I think this is the year, whether he goes 2-1 or 3-0, I think this is the year Dabo Swinney, at least in the playoffs, gets past he can't beat the SEC moniker. Sorry to do it on your pod, boys. I'm going to take the Clemson Tigers over the Georgia Bulldogs in the national championship game.
I don't hate it.
It's all right. It's all right. Rob, I'm with you at Arizona State with the Big 12, man. I think Arizona State is they're a powerhouse, man. They're putting something really good together. They're working the portal really well. The wide receiver group is disgusting. ACC, Clemson, sorry, Q. I like Georgia Tech, but that's just I don't know. You got to give me the Tigers on that. I do agree on that. I like Penn State, guys. I really do. I really do. But they lost a lot, man. And that quarterback, I'm not set on Drew Aller, man. I'm not set on the things that he's done, and I don't think that's going to change next year as well. I'm not. So because of that, I'm going with the dark horse, and I think Julian Sayin's going to be that. We're going to get another fun conversation to talk about a new kid on the block, and I think Ohio State's going to do it. I think Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten. Going to win the Big Ten. Now, the SEC, Texas, Georgia, right? If Bama finds a way, is that a possibility? I mean, it can be. It's Alabama. If they can put it together, it's a possibility. But I'm going with Georgia as well. You don't want to bet against Kirby Smart. And he's shown why. He's shown why. But when it comes to the national title, I'm still up in arms. And I think Clemson can, Rob. I think they could win it. I think that is a very good possibility. Although you really painted a stronger target on them than I originally thought in this episode, be real with you. It's tough. It's tough. But I have to agree with Q on this. I think Texas is going to do it.
Yeah.
I think Texas is going to do it. That is just a
I
deep
just don't
team,
know
man.
why they are. I don't know why I feel the way I feel, and it may change because of what I see Saturday. I don't know,
Sure, absolutely.
but it's something. It's just. I can't put my finger on it, but it's hard to say they're not gonna win it.
And I'll say this about Sark, because we've had great conversations with what happened in the SEC meetings down in Destin this year. And I'm gonna tell you what, Rob, and you probably know about Sark as well. That guy's a douche. Like, he's just a bad person, man. He's just not a nice guy. I mean, everybody's out here communicating, they're all having fun, and you got Sark in a corner, like on his phone. Like that's how he is. Just not a nice guy.
Yeah. So I agree with that.
I mean, listen, like I said about Brian Kelly earlier, boys, I do not judge coaches on their personality if they're winning a bunch, right? Nick Saban was a butthole to me personally at one point as a young man in my career. I don't hold it against him at all, because I recognize Nick Saban being that way was what turned Alabama into an absolute dynasty that we will all talk about until the day we die. Sure. If Sark goes out there and wins a natty and strings 2 or 3 of them together, keeps Arch around, they win 2-3, nobody's going to care if he's a butthole because he's building something that is big time, right? Well, like, let's keep it a buck, guys. In this country, we let people be a-holes to everybody else all the time, as long as they got money, fame, success, power, whatever. We let some of the worst people be in charge of some of the biggest things because, well, they're a winner, man. They just win. Whatever. I don't care if he does all that. I'll tell you who does. Guys like Brian Kelly, maybe Steve Sarkisian, if they're that way and they never win anything, if you're a college football player coming out of high school, 5-star recruit, opportunity to go somewhere and maybe look at yourself with a chance to win a Heisman Trophy, you going to go play for a guy who's known as a jackass and ain't won a damn thing? Nah, bruh. Nah. This is why I've said for years, I don't care if Mark Stoops hates the fun glasses and the dancing in the locker room. Shane Beamer is going to get talent. Why? Because I want to hang out with the guy. And if I'm an 18-year-old kid, that's exactly the kind of guy I want to play for. Now, if you want to be a butthole, be a butthole. But you better stack and rack some rings and some natties if you want to be a butthole and successful. Because if not, you're going to be Brian Kelly.
Yeah. And you brought up that Netflix special. And I'm going to tell you right now, Q and I know for a fact that Netflix special did LSU no favors.
None.
No favors. None. No favors at all. We personally know this. And for South Carolina, on the other hand, I mean, Shane Beamer said it tonight on his call-in show. Or excuse me, actually, he was with Feinbaum today. He said that there is a kid currently committed to a school, 5-star guy for 2027, and he committed to the school. He got in contact with South Carolina after watching the Netflix special. He said, I don't want to go anywhere else. He said, I'm committed to this school, but I want to come see what you guys have to offer. And we've seen a whole 180 from fans that despise Shane. Maybe after like 2022, the Tennessee game, right, against South Carolina, Tennessee. We've seen Tennessee fans kind of change the whole look of Shane Beamer after watching, that Netflix special. But for Brian Kelly, I don't know what LSU was thinking. But it wasn't smart. It wasn't smart because I think his reputation is starting to catch up to him. And I think it's going to here soon.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, I will give him credit before anybody else. Shane Beamer understands how to communicate with kids coming out of high school specifically, right? Like I remember, was it last year or 2 years ago when they recreated that scene from The Office with them all running down the street, getting their speed in front of the radar gun, and they recreated the Michael Scott scene and all that. And I'm gonna tell you that made it to my social media 5-6 minutes before I went on the air. And I was like genuinely, legitimately laughing out loud until we started the show. And then I had to explain it on the air because I was like breathing hard from how hard I was laughing at it. And I grew up a huge fan of The Office. So like it just kind of resonated with me. But the take there was, I don't know if The Office resonates with kids that are 17, 18 years old because hell, they were born the same year The Office debuted, right? But what I do know is when you're getting into and you're leaning into those angles and you're willing to go out there and be silly and be fun and be goofy and have a good time, like I'm not saying there's zero kids out there that aren't going to connect with that old gruff, boys, we're going to go out there and we're going to go to war. We're going to go out there and we're going to bleed with each other. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of kids who are still going to want that old school style of coaching. But football's a game, and most people who play it because they want to have fun playing it, guys. That doesn't mean you have to be bad and have fun. You can be a damn good team and have fun. Some of the best football teams of all time. That 2019 LSU team, bro, that team just had fun. That team vibed around Joey B all the time. The 2013 Florida State team around Jameis Winston, that team was vibes only. Jimbo Fisher got carried to a natty by Jameis Winston because Jameis Winston set the vibes on that team. You can be a good team and have a lot of fun, and that's the direction he's going in. But if you're going to be a jerk, you better be good at coaching. And Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame only for Notre Dame to go play for a natty a couple of years later was proof that he ain't it. Steve Sarkisian, and again, I don't get the vibe of Sarks, because I will say this about Nick Saban. Told you, insulted me. I know a bunch of former Alabama players who played for Saban, but they have nothing but glowing reviews about him. But as I said, Nick Saban's the guy that is glowing to you if you can give him something that helps him, right? There's nothing wrong with being that way. I'm just saying you better turn it into something. And you better do it quick, because otherwise you're going to end up looking like Brian Kelly on Netflix and everybody making fun of you for saying family like a moron.
Yeah, that was awful. Well, guys, I mean, this is Rob, always great to have you on to preview the season, man. It's always fun.
My boy.
Do it every year. It's been a thing. And it's been fun. It's always fun, man. And we've brought up some good points. I mean, honestly, opened my eyes a little bit more about Clemson's target on its back, really. I will say that. We'll see what it looks like Heisman-wise. Will we go 3-0 for myself, Rob, Q? I mean, we'll see where we look at with the Heisman. It's going to be a fun year, guys. It's going to be a fun season. We're already off to some upsets. Boise State got butchered by South Florida tonight at Tampa.
Frauds, bro. Frauds.
Yeah, that's
frauds.
Bad. That's bad.
Between them and Kansas State, I don't know who's the bigger fraud, bro.
Dog, is there anybody I feel worse for in America than Avery Johnson right now? That man had 6 balls hit dudes in the numbers that just went to the turf. Like what a.
And then he got his parent and his dad and brother throwing hands after the game, bro. You're right, bro. You know what? I'm sorry, Boise State. You take the title, because I ain't doing that to Avery Johnson. But that man couldn't catch a break. And he was overseas catching a break. Nah, bro.
Avery Johnson was on the plane back texting the NCAA office asking if they could open up a special transfer portal for a hot minute.
Just for a second, bro. He has a team in mind. I know it. So
I'll tell you this, man. November 8th at Notre Dame for Navy, Rob. That's going to be that playoff. Hey, are we going in or not? And I'm going to be watching that game. And I normally do watch that game. I'm going to be watching that game a little more crazy this time. A little more. Well, we're going to enjoy that game, 7:30 at Notre Dame. That's going to be a fun one now in South Bend. But great stuff, Rob. I mean, it's always fun to have you on the show, man. Always good times. Hey, Rob, let everybody know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to come back anytime. Anytime the boys get a little bored, they see somebody to come in and yell and make a little noise, you holler at me. I'm always coming on for the fellas. You can follow me on social media at The Rob Brown Show. That's on Twitter. That's on Instagram. That's on TikTok, because I'm an 18-year-old. And that's, of course, on Facebook as well. We do stream my show, The Rob Brown Show, which airs every single weekday from 6 until 10 a.m. You can find that at thefanupstate.com if you want the audio version. If you'd like to watch the stream, because we do stream the video live, you go behind the scenes. We stay live during the commercial break, so you can chat with me in the break. Sometimes I bring stuff from the stream on the air and vice versa. You can find that on all of my social media channels at The Rob Brown Show, including on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can find me on that couch about 9 beers deep by 3:30 p.m. on Saturday because college football is back, people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Love it.
It's back.
Oh, by the way, the radio station is 97.7 FM, the upstate in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. I guess I should have said the place that I actually work. My bad. Also, the Braves just let Kyle Schwarber hit 4 home runs in a game. I hate my baseball team, so I'm gonna go drink a bunch of bourbon and call it a night.
There you go. Well, guys, we appreciate y'all tuning in to the Welcome Up Podcast with Rob Brown from the Upstate on the show today, The Fan. Just a great episode. As always, you can replay the show, the Welcome Up Podcast on Apple and Spotify, the official voice of South Carolina on the Believe Network. Guys, we will see you next time.
Peace.